Sadiq Khan has described the election of Zohran Mameabi as a victory for decency, for tolerance. Hope wins, apparently. Well, I'm going to tell you about the front page of the New York Post, which says, unbelievably, that Mameabi, just like Sadiq Khan, has in his past been friends with, a supporter of, somebody who has behaved in an unacceptable way when it comes to tea offences. The person in the case of Mameabi is a man who was an unindicted co-conspirator of the 1993 World Trade Center attack. This wasn't the one, by the way, that knocked them down. This is the one that happened much earlier when Bill Clinton was president. Nonetheless, Sadiq and Mameabi are both people who in their past have been supportive of and friends with people who've been accused of very, very serious Islamic fundamentalism, jihadism, and indeed T&Rrism. In this video, I'm going to go through that, and I'm going to say to you that it's time that we forced the Muslim community, whether it be in Britain or America, to accept its responsibility to push out and castigate dangerous people within its own community. Hello everyone, this is Andre Walker. Thanks so much for watching this video, but please do, more importantly, subscribe, and more importantly than that, hit the bell notification icon. It's the most important way and the best way to guarantee you get all my videos as soon as they are released. I can't believe what I'm telling you now, but we've got this new mayor of New York. Everybody's saying, wow, this guy's the antidote to Trump, this guy's fantastic, blah, 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 blah. But it is the same thing as we've seen time and time again, isn't it? This unholy alliance between leftists and jihadis. The number of women that voted for Mameabi is absolutely huge. In one category, I think the 24 to 34 age group, something like 85% of women voted for him. But throughout his entire life, he's been good friends with an imam who is from Brooklyn. And this imam is called Siraj Wahhaj. Now, okay, what the argument in favour of Mr. Wahhaj is this, that he is the imam in Brooklyn. Oh, okay, I get that. The argument against him is that he is somebody who was part of the conspiracy to blow up the World Trade Center in 1993. Now, I would suggest to you that of all the things that were iconic in the United States of America, the World Trade Center was one of them, which is why Osama bin Laden targeted it. But this man has been a conspirator. He was never charged with the offence, but he was somebody who effectively worked with the bombers to assist them in terms of their ideology, in terms of giving them succour, and so on and so forth. So he is, I think it's reasonable to say, a terrorist. And similarly, you look up Sadiq Khan's past, he's got a guy who's similar to Wahhaj. His name is Babar Ahmed. Just to explain who Babar Ahmed was, he was a researcher at the University of London. But whilst he was there, he also was the first godfather of online fundraising for Osama bin Laden and Al-Qaeda. And Sadiq Khan said, when Babar Ahmed was arrested and they attempted to extradite him to the United States of America. By the way, at this point, Babar Ahmed pleaded his innocence and said that he'd never done anything wrong. Sadiq Khan first said it was his best friend from school, then changed the website to say it was his cousin, then changed the website to say they occasionally played football with him, then changed the website to say he'd never met him at all. 4 different explanations as to what his relationship was with this guy who, when he went to the United States of America, pleaded guilty. So we've got, in the case of the mayor of New York, T-links. In the case of the mayor of London, T-links as well. But let's go even further than that on hope wins. Sadiq Khan's law practice in South London was related to human rights. He represented people who were suing the police and attempting to get off with very serious offences related to terrorism. He was often the lawyer for Hezbollah Tahrir, it's a banned terrorist group, and Sadiq Khan would represent their members, whether they were in the UK or whether they were abroad. Yes, that's right. He represented people he had never met from countries that he was not a regular visitor to. In the case of his client at Guantanamo Bay, his client at Guantanamo Bay was an Algerian who had previously lived in Paris and was arrested at Tora Bora, and Sadiq Khan somehow was instructed by this person. Now, I'm not saying that Sadiq Khan and Mamdani are actual sleeper cells. I'm not saying that because I don't believe that. What I believe is this. There's a major problem within the Muslim community, and it's this willingness to turn a blind eye to all sorts of bad behaviour. You know, I got criticised yesterday for saying that there were some positive things about Islam. Well, the reason that so few people agree on that is because what they see is they see a religion of defiance. They see a religion where people are not willing to do their civic, moral and ethical duty when another Muslim's involved. You know, they don't see the bits about charity when somebody is known to be a member of a grooming gang and the whole community turns a blind eye quite deliberately. When you talk about Youssef al-Qaradawi, the man who called for the beheading of the the Emir of Qatar. By the way, the Emir of Qatar was banned from GAY nightclub for fighting when somebody came on to his boyfriend. Obviously, that's not something we talk about very much anymore, and the Qataris are desperate for us not to refer to that. But Youssef al-Qaradawi called for him to be beheaded, which I think is wholly unacceptable. If the Emir of Qatar is gay, then it's the right of the Emir of Qatar to be gay. The only reason that I am furious with him is because of his remarkable hypocrisy in a country where any displays of affection at all will land you in prison, and homosexuality will get you 10 years to death. One of those two, or a gradient, therefore somewhere in between. But Youssef al-Qaradawi, who was able to speak in London, was somebody who had supported all sorts of unpleasant and unreasonable views. The T&Rror friends of Sadiq Khan want to emancipate women. They want to take away rights from gay people. They want to charge this special tax, which is Christians and Jews will not be persecuted in the ways that Sikhs, Hindus and Buddhists will, but they will have to pay a special tax. And then if they convert to Islam, they don't have to pay it anymore. If they don't either convert to Islam or pay the tax, then they too will be executed. That is what a common view amongst T&Rror is, and Sadiq Khan's friends with them. This guy, Mamdani, is friends with, as I say, this imam in Brooklyn. The imam in Brooklyn is talking all about, you know, removing the rights of gay people and indeed forcing people to wear hijabs and burqas and those sorts of things. So when you see Sadiq Khan wandering around talking about his moderate views, it's almost like the people who supported the Ayatollah Khomeini when he was attempting to take over Iran in the 70s. How many newspapers at the time, how many left-wing rags said that the Ayatollah Khomeini, this was going to be a change, this was going to be the end to imperialism, this was going to be a great opportunity now. The political left and the radical Muslims have come together to take over Iran. Khomeini shot the left. He just shot them. And what happened subsequently was he moved his country into a 7th century fascist regime that has subjugated the people of that country and indeed further afield for decades since. And he has funded tea around the world, which has caused so much heartache and so much distress. And of course, we know that the Iranian regime was behind not only the Houthis in Yemen, but also that appalling pogrom incursion into Israel on the 7th of October. And what was it that Iran was so worried about? They were worried about the risk, the very real risk, that Israel was going to have a peace deal with Saudi Arabia. So can you imagine the people of Gaza, ruled by this Iranian force, supported by the political left, sit there and they say, there's a real danger here that peace might happen. What we need to do is go to the peace kibbutz, go to the people that are on our side, go to the people that we like, and do that to them. Because if we do that to them, then what we will have done will be so outrageous that Israel will be forced to invade. Not a squeak of criticism, of course, from Sadiq Khan for any of this. No. Instead, what he believes in is that he will propel himself to political power by this alliance. And Mamdani has done it as well, where what you say is, you say, we will create a client state where everybody is on the payroll of the government, and we will also allow uncontrolled immigration from the Islamic world, and we will allow Islamic fundamentalism to thrive. That is, I'm afraid, whether Sadiq knows it or not, a stepping stone for Sharia law and a stepping stone for Britain to become an Islamic caliphate. And I have to say to you, if London was to become an independent country now, I think it would be an Islamic caliphate within probably about 20 or 30 years. And so we have to say to the British Muslim community, which side are you on? Are you on the side of 7th century Middle Eastern fascists, or are you on the side of democracy and freedom and Britain? And it's not good enough for Sadiq Khan to say hope wins. What does that mean? Hope wins. Well, I hope that my nieces are not going to be forced to wear a burqa in the next 20 years. But that hope, I'm afraid, is starting to dwindle, because the problem comes very simply with this. When you have a community like the Muslim community in Britain, who are unwilling to challenge the more radical elements, you don't need them all to be radical in order to have a radical government. Because what will happen is you will have the 5% extremists like you've got in Iran. The 5% extremists will roll out their mad view of the world, and the 95% will simply say, well, we wouldn't have done it if it was us, but, you know, hey-ho, don't want to go against a Muslim brother or sister. And that is how we will get Sharia law in Britain. And I think it's time now to say that we have to insist for Sadiq and insist for Mamdani. Islam may be an approach to life, but in the West, there is a separation between church and state. If you cannot separate church and state, then I'm afraid you have to leave to go to a country where you can, where that separation is not important. Now, I wouldn't throw anybody out who's a British national, but you have to reflect very hard on whether your love of your God, your love of your prophet is going to do any good for this country, or whether you're just going to subjugate people who do not wish to be subjugated. And finally, let me say this on the subject of Israel. Isn't it remarkable for us to see what happened last night in Birmingham? A group of settlers who have come to Birmingham from Pakistan and Bangladesh standing up and saying, how dare you allow Jewish people to come to Birmingham? This is Muslim land, when their central complaint against the Jews is they're settling the West Bank, right? These are literal settlers complaining about what they consider to be a settlement. Anyway, we move on. I worry very gravely about the fact that so many people are so positive about terrorism in this country. Until next time, goodbye.